we're recording, and I always forget to press record. So now we're going to stream into Facebook. And as I stream into Facebook, Jodi will, maybe you can see if people are coming in and, no, it's not streaming yet. It's preparing to stream. So we will be going live here shortly in Facebook, and I'm really excited about it. I will enter all the information. A candid conversation about racism. All right, we're going to go live. And here we go. All right, and we have 2 attendees so far. Those of you who are attending the webinar, we will not be seeing your faces. You should only be able to see my face, Thuy's face, Jodi's face, but we would love to hear from you in the chat. If you can send a message to either panelists or panelists and attendees, and just let us know where you're zooming in from and how you heard about the webinar, what interests you about listening to these. Perhaps you've had an opportunity to go to my YouTube channel and watch previous webinars, or maybe you've been a guest on previous webinars, but we'd love to hear from you. Where are you zooming in from? And those people who are watching on Facebook, thank you also. Welcome. We'd love to hear from you and find out, you know, what is it that's attracting you to listen to these webinars? Or if this is your first one, why today? What was it that attracted you? So I'm going to, excuse me, introduce myself. I'm going to introduce my co-host, and then I'm going to introduce our delightful panelist. So my name is Misha Safran, and I am a heartstring healer working with lesbian, bisexual, queer, trans identified women who are struggling with isolation, excuse me, and heartbreak. And, oh, I need a little water. Give me 1 second. Okay, and so I also work as an academic life coach with students 6th grade through college. And I think I'm going to have you talk. I'm going to have to pause for a minute. You have to unmute yourself. No, that's not going to work. All right, maybe I just need a lozenger from my bag, if you don't mind. All right, sorry, everybody. So again, Misha Safran, and so I not only work with lesbian, bisexual, queer, trans identified women, it's on the bookshelf, but I also work with students, and the idea is to help them with executive functioning and strategizing how to enjoy school more, be more successful, but also because I'm an academic life coach, it's not just about academics. And my co-host, excuse me, thank you. My co-host is my partner, Jodi Lewis. And Jodi, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everybody what you do.
Hi. So good afternoon, everyone. So happy to be here. I am an attorney. I work for a nonprofit organization. We provide services for survivors of domestic and sexual violence. So in particular, I run the legal center there, and we do mostly family law, but we also help survivors with housing issues, consumer debt issues, immigration issues. And when I say family law, it's looking at custody, divorce support, termination of parental rights, etc. So thank you.
Thank you. And so I decided to start these webinars back in, gosh, I guess it would be April or May. I was very angry. I've been very angry about the way Black people, brown people, people of color are treated in our country and around the world. And I remember when I was in the 1st grade, we always watched Holocaust and we watched Roots. And one day I went to school one year and my best friend, Dee Dee, said, "Your people enslaved my people." And I was like, what? And I'm Jewish. So I didn't have any, I couldn't look at her and say, well, your people killed my people. I mean, it wasn't like this, we get to go back and forth with this. It was not my color skin. She looked at me and she said, "Your people enslaved my people." And killed a lot of them. That's what she said. And I was heartbroken. And I went home to my parents. I'm like, what? And I'm really glad she said that, because even though I didn't do it, it was very powerful for me, a message of there are some inequities here. So as a first grade girl, I realized, oh my God, there's some inequities. Now, did I do a whole lot about that? Just in being who I am, compassion, love, listening to people. And I'm not going to say use the word just, it's important, but I wasn't as active as I've become since the George Floyd murder. And it really, I was sick to my stomach and very upset. So I decided that I wanted to have a space for my friends, for my coaching cohorts, for my sisters, for my community members, where they could share with an open heart what they're feeling, what they're experiencing, and not have it be this lesson for allies, for white people. Nobody's here to teach white people how to do things better, but to really give a safe space, to create a brave space for friends like Thuy and other people who have been on these webinars. And so far, the response is that that's what's happening. And, if it doesn't go any further than this in the audience that's here to listen and to watch, it's still 1 to 5 people more hearing the pain that someone's experiencing and what's a reality in our country and across the globe. So without further ado, I do want to welcome Thuy. Thuy Melissa, and you say the last name Dao?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So Thuy is a Vietnamese-born music alchemist and soul purpose coach. Oh, her piano playing is amazing. Anyways, okay. So Thuy also considers music the language of the soul. After studying in Russia, Poland, and the United States, Thuy has been given interactive concerts where she brings the audience into the world of music through stories and active imagination. And I actually watched Thuy do a live video where she had her piano music in the background. I'm getting emotional, Thuy. It was so beautiful. It was calming, it was soothing, and her words and her voice matching with her piano playing. I can't recommend it enough. You'll have opportunities to find out more about her business and how to access her videos. But yeah, so I just want to say that training as a pedagogue, performer, and music therapist, Thuy delights in finding new ways to invite the listener into a deeper encounter with themselves through music and other arts. And as a singer-songwriter, I'm very drawn to what you do that way. And it's very important to note here that Thuy felt very insecure for many years because of being different, and is now here with us to share her perspectives and thoughts. And I want to invite you, Thuy, I tell everybody this, all my panelists, only share what you want to share. I ask the audience to have your ears open, to have your minds open, to have your hearts open, and that if you have anything negative to say, please don't say it right now. You can send me an email. If you have something you're concerned about, send me an email. But I really want Thuy to have a safe place where she can be brave, because from what we talked about before, there are some things she might share today that she's never shared before. And so this has got to be a really important place where you feel comfortable. And if you don't, I would like to know about it. You don't have to tell me now, you can tell me later. But I just want to say hello and welcome you here. And thank you so much for trusting me and my partner to have the space for you.
Thank you so much, Misha and Jodi, for having me here and creating this space. I have been asked before by a few people if I would talk about my experience as a foreigner, as a Vietnamese person living in another country. I never took up those opportunities. I just didn't feel that safe about it. I didn't want to be sharing about how how I became successful. I felt that's what they wanted to hear, and I feel more that this is a very vulnerable experience for me. So, and this is the first time, I don't know why, when I saw this invitation of yours, I just asked you and I clicked it. And later I kind of was thinking like, wow, what did I just do? I didn't want to back out. So yes, like I from the early age, I mean, I think part of something that has been with me for years is that I was, even in Vietnam, I was quite sensitive in comparison with other people. So I would be touched by many things that usual people would consider normal. And then when I was 7 and we moved to Russia, I think the experience was for me even more difficult than for other people. And I remember being there. My mom was actually in Hungary and I was in Russia just with my father, who would go to work all day long. And as a 6-year-old, I was locked at home from morning to night for days, like without even one toy, like anything to do. So all I do is I would sit by the window and look through the window and seeing other around there. And then later, when I went to school, there was this experience that, um, well, well, it was more that people that didn't know how to support me as a person who was different. And Pasha, even there were some friends, even, I mean, they were not my friends, but I didn't know them, that would invite me to go somewhere with them. And I was thinking that no, I'm not going to take this invitation because I don't want to bother them. I'm sure they don't like that and they just want to help me. And I'm not going to bother them with my presence. So I would rather stay alone. And also at the same time, so we were at school from morning until evening. And I, for months, I wouldn't be eating lunch because I didn't know whether um, I had the right to go and eat lunch over there. So this, that being said, the experience of being, it was a difficult experience for me. Um, and yeah, and but in Russia, I didn't feel like I was meeting any kind of intentional injustice toward me. It was very personal. So actually, that's the way I still have been looking a lot throughout my life, trying to see it more as what I could do to get out of it, seeing if something as of my fault as opposed to a system or someone else. So really, so I haven't so much looked from this perspective, but when I recall that, I remember my parents always telling me throughout years about that because we are different, we need to work much harder than others. That if you want to get anywhere in your life, you'd better work now. And for years I would be told that I would come back home because later we moved to Poland, and I'd be like, everyone is going on vacations, mom. I was like 10 years old, and I was and at school here in Poland there is like this tradition of going on vacation. So always before the vacation for a month or two, the teacher would be asking all the kids where you are going. It's like this excitement. I mean, and everyone was telling about what they are going to do. And I felt so embarrassed that I never had anything to share, because it was always actually like, I just want to disappear because I don't have any vacation. I don't go anywhere. And then for a month after vacation, like in different classes, they would be like, okay, so where have you been? And I'd be like, again, very embarrassed that I didn't have any story to tell about my vacations. And it's a small thing, but I think it put me into this place of feeling very insecure about myself, that I did not have any interesting thing to say, that I would always have to work harder than other people to get anything, that I cannot expect to have the same thing that people around me are having. about safety, that I'd better be careful because I look very different. So if I'm not careful, that if someone wants to attack someone, that would be me. And I did get as a child at school, people would call me different names. Um, I always tried not to make a big deal out of it, but there are this like small hurt, like calling me those different names, that calling me Chinese, although I wasn't Chinese, and not that there's anything wrong with being Chinese, but saying it in the way that that was suggestive that I was worse, that you are Chinese, and like they have this like ching chang chong thing that they would be calling me notoriously, and I hated hearing those. But the kids would run next to me, say it, and run away, and and so that's like something that would be in the background of my life throughout. And mm, and in and as a very sensitive person, it made me really question myself. And I think this is a very complicated and complex psychological topic, because in one way, I did everything to blend in. I mean, that was my strategy, because I couldn't. I saw that being different was so painful, and so I was trying to find ways to to see the similarities. And yeah, so I will tell you a few things about blending in, and later I will tell you about the disadvantages of this blending in. And well, music is one of the strategy for me to blend in a safe way, and blend in, but here because it was the language that helped me to connect with the people here in Poland. Because once I was playing piano, once I was in music, people stopped questioning who I was, what language I was speaking, or, oh, you speak Polish so well, where are you from? Hmm. But with piano, like all of this went away, and I didn't have to um, kind of justify myself, where I'm from, what I'm doing, when did I come here, why did I come here. I mean, it's a normal questions, but for some reason I just did not like for many years answering all of this. And then people saying that, oh, you are from Vietnam, I would love to go to Vietnam, and I was just like, I don't know about this. Yeah, because like this experience of being different for me was quite painful, just that I had always had to work for this connection. So music, yeah, that was music. In music, things are so in the way it defined my life, because music seemed to be the only place where I felt safe. I thought I could share in the way, and because it's classical music, I play classical music. It doesn't have words, right? So it's like you can interpret it the way you want. Um, so that's kind of was my refuge. And yes, and I did meet wonderful people in Poland and in the United States through music. Because once I did it, like there was like these boundaries falling away, and so probably that's one of the reasons why I chose it as my profession, because I've never wanted to make it my career or become a concert pianist. I didn't even want to teach piano, but there was something about music that I just felt safe in it. Mm. So, but that being said, what happened is that I went into music, and this experience of being different was in a way somehow healed by it. but I listened to Misha and Jodi, some of the webinars that you've had, and I felt so resonant with the pain of the people there. And I started questioning myself whether there's some parts of it that I just had never acknowledged. I never said that I had the right to feel that way. And I think that's a kind of experience of being different and living in the country where the majority has their culture and you need to blend in. It's like, yeah, it's this owning still some part of myself. I work with my disown self a lot, but this part of a racial disowning, I think there's some of it, and I felt so this yeah, it felt very sensitive. I had still had my tears running listening to this pain. And because even without music, what I was feeling when I was about 15, 16 years old playing music was that I was asking myself, what is this suffering? What is this pain that I'm feeling in this music? And I was just like, and I was like, this is not my personal pain that I could recognize and saying that's because of this, this, this. But there is something very deep that I'm connecting to. And I've asked myself this. And now when I think back and I'm thinking about this pain, I think a big part of it has to do with this pain of uh, um, of being different, this pain, this interracial pain of us, different cultures. Um, Always, there's, black people, white people, yellow people, Latin people, all of this. And we, as we in this global society move together are much more closer. Um, there's so many things that need to work through to truly feel that connection and that insecurity of both parts, like of the dominant white culture, of a minor yellow culture, or the minor black culture, or any of this. It's both about insecurity, right? But from a dominant and a victim perspective many times. But it has to do with the way that we want, some people want to have power and they need to claim that power through dominance because they don't have other ways to feeling powerful. And so there's a lot of pain here. And also from my experience of, I say, blending in, trying to be um, like the people around me, it made me in a way want to move away from my own cultural sisters and brothers at some point because they reminded me of everything that I wanted not to see myself as. Um, of this a person who comes from a different country, of a person who has different way of being, of a person, like I just didn't want to see that in myself. So I would there is this thing of me, and it is embarrassing still to some points like that. That's what I did, and that how can you be against your own, right? But it's a very complex thing. This sense of how we, where we put ourselves, and what culture, who do you make our allies at certain moments of times, and that was it is still something for me how to find that connection throughout. Because what I find is there is difference for sure. There is difference, and and our mind usually judges the differences. And our mind will judge which one is more attractive and which one is less attractive. And our mind will want us to belong to something that we find more attractive. So this awareness of what's happening in our mind, in my mind, is something that I am always trying to cultivate. And
I had a question. I wanted to go back a little bit, if that's okay.
yes.
You said something about when your family first moved to Russia, and your parents basically said you have to work harder because we're different.
Yeah.
Was that not the culture that you lived in Vietnam, or were you too young to know?
Yeah. Well, in some part it is the mindset of everyone from that culture who wants more in their lives. You know, it's not for everyone,
Right.
but for sure everyone who actually manages to get out of Vietnam to make a better living, somehow aim for a better living for their families, have that mindset, because otherwise they would not be able to go through that.
Yeah.
So it's in the mindset of that particular group of people.
Right. And I think that's the same here. And I wasn't trying to pin it on Vietnamese culture, but I was more just when you were home, because I know that my family raised me to do the best I could, but that if I really wanted to succeed, I needed to do as even better than best if possible, right? And there are definitely different people in our country and other countries where that's just the go-to. You got to work extra hard. I know for me as a woman, a short woman, a Jewish woman, and now identifying as a lesbian woman, there's all these different steps I have to climb. The steps get, further and further, like harder to climb, right? So I have to push harder to get up to that next step. So it sounds to me, what I heard you saying was the message was more because you are now different.
Yeah.
And I was curious to know what percentage had to do with being different and what percentage was just your parents' true desire for you to achieve your goals. And I know that's really a hard question to answer, but
yes. I don't know what percentage. I'm sure there were both of this here. And maybe it's half-half. I could say, yes, it's half-half. And the curious thing is that as we were in Poland, and my parents were saying that there's no life for you later in Poland, so you'd better go to the United States because there, these American dreams, everyone is equal, which is kind of funny now. Think about all of this, in this context. But that's the perception of a lot of people outside the United States often, that yes, in Europe, here in Poland, you will never be treated equally. You'll always be the second category person. If they have a job, then they would first get people from their nationality, and only then if they don't have anyone. So unless you really stand out, you will never going to make it here. So you better go to the States because there everyone is treated equally. So I guess
was that your experience when you came to the States, that you were treated equally?
You know what? My experience being in the States was I went to the States for the university, and I left the States right after I finished the university. I actually was not buying at all into that American dream. I mean, I was sold to it partially by my parents, who said that's the way to go, that would be so much better. I like the university setting. It's in the university, it is quite, I was the University of Iowa, which I know Iowa itself is a different because it's a Midwest, and most people actually there are like white people. But at the university was quite diverse, and in that setting, I felt seen, and I felt like I could develop. but I didn't actually intuitively, I didn't see myself staying and going out of the university and staying in the States. So even though, my parents like, oh, we worked so hard for you to go there. And now I was there, so why don't you make a next step to stay? And I was just like, no, I'm out of here. The moment I am done with the university, I didn't feel like it's going to be any better to me in the United States than in Vietnam or in Poland. I felt that it would be more difficult to fight for my rights over there. I mean, even to get a job, as a foreigner, it's like all these things that you need to be able to even get a visa to stay there, and not talking about other things later in the workplace, what happens. And and yes, so I felt like university, yes, I liked it there, but staying in the States, I wasn't seeing this as such an opportunity once I was there. So I left it right away, went back to Vietnam and then to Poland. And yeah, and I'm not planning on moving to the States.
It's interesting. One thing, so I'm going to go back again to what we were talking about around, because a person is different, they have to work even harder. There's a philosophy in many citizens here in the United States that Black people and brown people shouldn't be complaining, that they have just as many opportunities to have success in their life, to get a good education. And yet there's another contingency that's saying, excuse us, we've had 450 years of enslavement, of being on the back burner, of being treated unjustifiably, to be having been, there's a lot of inequities. And you're saying that, so we've had the exact same journey that you've had, and so therefore we should be able to be where you are. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's
And I stand with the people who are saying, no, we're not equal to you and never have been equal to you. So it shouldn't just be like, snap, work harder. So
exactly, like the starting point is totally different here, right? So it's not, it's like we are comparing as though we're standing right at the same place,
right.
but then it's totally not. And I mean, I feel like people who succeeded, despite that different starting place, had to really be able to go through some struggles, and they were like special in a way. They are the exception, not the rule. And it's so unfair to compare and to demand. I mean, that why don't you do the same thing? Because the family and the education of the ancestors was different also. And that what I find is, the more I am alive, the more I start understanding that we are not only us born here, we are so much more, our ancestors, our parents, grandparents, and all of this pain of the previous generation somehow is in our DNA. And just want to wipe it all out, just like that, and saying that, okay, it's done, it's over, let's start from as though nothing happened. It's a cover up. I think it's a cover up for history, and unless there is some introspection, like collective cultural introspection of the sides, we cannot build any equality. I mean, come on. Like, even in this South development say, we talk about forgiveness work, but then, like there's this Ho'oponopono, work. I'm sure you, some of you heard about it, right? I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. But it starts with I'm sorry. It has I'm sorry there, and you know, forgiving yourself.
How do you
Ho'oponopono.
Ho'oponopono? Right, I have heard that.
Yeah, yeah, and it has to do with both sides, right? This like even and it is difficult, I think, when we talk about something so collective,
Mhm.
because on the one hand, how can some, I mean, let's say some a Caucasian person who is born now or was born 20 years ago be responsible for something that was done 100 years ago or 50 years ago, right? It seems unfair. Yet there's something about this cultural responsibility
Mhm.
that I have a friend who is very passionate about this topic of racial and social equality and bringing everyone to the place where we truly are connecting. And he's been talking about a curious fact that uh, right now, what happens in Europe between Jewish and German people is that Jewish people seem to really like living in Germany. Many of them find it's the best place in the world to live in.
Mhm.
And we know what happened, right?
Mhm.
Just not so too long ago. But we also know that German people really took it unto themselves to go through that process of seeing all the cruel thing that they've done and of teaching in their schools the truth. I mean, as close to truth as possible, but like the tragic thing that happened, how the mistake that they made, and they truly looked at it, and it's somehow. And when I talk to German people, many of them still say that they still see in their psyche this Holocaust, and they feel that burden, and they are willing to take that burden. And when they do it, it creates a safe place for the Jewish people to now go there, because there's no cover up.
Right. There's no covering up.
And
That's a very powerful statement.
yeah,
Mhm.
and I mean, this similar thing happened between Vietnam and America, right? I mean, the war between America and Vietnam War, I mean, it was not that long ago. And now many Vietnamese people we are actually, my family and a lot of our friends are seeing America as our friends. And what happened between America and Vietnam is that despite all of this, you know, like tragedy that happened, uh, in the nation collectively, there was a movement of acknowledging that mistake, that tragedy, um, that they caused so much damage, that pain that they was caused through the film industry was a lot, right? Apocalypse Now is one of the movie showing the complexity of the psyche of what happened, and that they are wrestling uh, with this issue. But that's wrestling with the issue, that opening it up, it opens up to forgiveness. That's saying I am sorry from the bottom, but I don't know why we did it, and we are sorry about this, and collectively. And and I asked him, so how about black people? Like, how is it? How do you see it? And he told me that it wasn't enough of it, because the slavery was such, it's such, was so big, that what America has done to actually open up and take this I am sorry, you know, like if you say that principle, it's not enough at all for this amount of pain and human, like dehumanization that was caused through that. And unless it's worked through now, um, it's still there. There's no equality, like America was able to in the way heal the American Vietnamese in some part, right? German healed the Jewish German, but the Black American, and through the slavery and everything, is not healed yet, because it was. I think there's some embarrassment there, and now also that shame. So much shame is there. Yes, and we know it's not easy to grapple with our shame. It's better to keep it underground. I mean, it's better. We feel that we don't know what to do about it. And so on this collective level.
What you're saying is incredibly, I'm just going to use that word again, powerful. I honestly didn't even put the connection that Vietnam and the United States have been healing, Germans and Jews have been healing. I mean, I know clearly that the Black people have not been able to heal because there's been no willingness to do reparations, et cetera. And yet, for some reason, I didn't make those connections. That's really profound for me to hear that. And I actually, it's rather interesting that the person who just put a question in the chat had about economic hardships. I'll ask the question for you, but I think that there's a way in which there's been economic resolve to some degree with the Vietnamese American relationship, the German and the Jew relationship. And yet if there were resolve with Black Americans, that the white people, quote unquote, would suffer. And so white people aren't willing to change their lives.
Exactly. It's more difficult because there's the codependent relationship. Absolutely. Over there. I mean, with Vietnam, we are far away. So,
right.
It's easier, right? Even with your mom, it's easier when you are away to heal that pain.
Yeah. And it comes down once again to inconvenience. And it makes me so angry. That there's so much we need to do individually and collectively to change our lives for the betterment of others. But then you have a cohort that says, well, that's socialism or communism or whatever, and we can't have that. And yet it's what we need. We need to have a collective willingness to heal and to help heal.
Yeah. And what's happening right now, I mean, it's in a way, it's nothing new. It was always, that energy was always there. Right. It's just coming to the surface, and that we have to deal with it now. So, and it is inconvenient. And, like, even if there's like some of the spiritual principles of, like manifesting and putting yourself in the state that everything is good, I disagree with that. Because for me, there's so much about trying to force something that is not true. It's like, if I believe that this inconvenience, this discomfort, this uneasing emotions, all this anxiety, the suffering that's coming up, it can only thoroughly go away when we face it, when we let it pass through, when we experience it, so we can heal it. And we start taking different decisions through our feeling, through the fact that we can empathize with that feeling, not through us pretending that everything is fine and forcing that mindset that it's all good, because it's not all good. I mean, on some level, it is all good, but on our earthly level, on this level that we are working on here, there are still a lot of things that need to be worked through. It's actually through being really true to what's happening. And I mean, even with me and my music, at some point, because I actually have been very gravitated toward the music that actually carry a lot of suffering in itself. And at some point, I even was thinking, this might not be good for me. Why don't I stop playing that music, and I go and start you know, play something happy or do something that, you know, that will bring some, you know, upbeat. And I was asked for something, why play something upbeat or do something? And I did for a while. And but what I felt that it was inauthentic. It was not true. That and then I started to understand the message of the music and my mission in this world, why this music was in my life and why I was attracted to it. And I think a lot about my mission has to do with facing the pain and safely helping others to face their pain. And as I take people into those journey into themselves, they actually get to see different states. They get to see some things that they've never wanted to look at. Mm, mm, well, yeah, music does give that container of empathy in it. So there's a sense of that it will end up well at the end, but then it lets you go back and see certain images that are still in you. And I think it's very powerful because, as I said before, how can you ask some 20-year-old, 30-year-old to take responsibility for something that happened before? But as we go through this journey inside ourselves, in our psyche, people start facing ancestral things just naturally, you know, at something, some part of their psyche is still wrestling with it. And as they face it, as they start feeling what's going on and start asking questions, it brings things to the surface.
Well,
And
if we don't
and
ask
let
the
it
question,
feel.
if we don't ask the question, or if we don't quote unquote accuse this person of being participant of it, even though it was centuries ago or years ago, then we are denying history.
Yes.
And then there's no ability for that person of today's generation to take any responsibility for change because they don't realize where the change needs to come from. I mean,
Yes.
that's kind of what I'm gathering.
Yeah.
So let me, if you're willing, let me turn this back to you
Mhm.
as a person of color. And this kind of goes in line with the question from one of our attendees. Were there any other hardships for you being a person of color in whatever country you were in, whether it was Russia or Poland or even Vietnam or in the United States? Did you have any economic hardships? Have you had any other hardships, you know, other than having to work harder to fit in? Our attendee is wanting to know, what other hardships did you face as a result of being a person of color? And it's okay if you didn't have any others. I'd be happy for you if you didn't have any others. But just wondering if you want to reflect on that.
Yeah. Well, one of the thing that I really, you know, I think partially of it is that I always understood myself to be in some way different, so I never demanded myself to be treated exactly like other people. So I actually took it to my heart that there are some things that are different to me, and and I said before it was painful, but there's sometimes comes a time when I feel that it's very unfair, and I feel this unfairness. I felt this unfairness very 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 powerful when when something that I actually built myself, and then I was thrown away from it because I am of color. And it had to do with, I will tell you a specific situation. I started this center for music in Poland about 5 years ago, and it came from something that no one else wanted to walk into. You know, it was, you know, like usually with immigrants, like we take things that the people here don't bother.
Right.
In some way. So it was in a place that many people didn't think that they would bother going in there and doing something. But I started holding daily concert at that place. and then it became a ritual. And later, this like place like that I had this small part of somehow became our own. I mean, I could, the people who, there were still some people working on this with me, but I was the one walking in there and doing the work. But then when this whole center became the musical center, what I started feeling is that now, if I am there, there's no place for it to develop and truly grow. And I was willing to back myself up to let a Polish person stand as a director. I was okay with that because I saw that it would help it flourish. But what I felt as a total injustice is that one day I'm walking into the place that I know that I found it. And then someone was saying to me that I don't belong to this place.
Wow.
And on the one hand, that person didn't know that I found this place, but it was a Polish person, and she's like, you are yellow and you shouldn't be there. And that's when I was feeling, I mean, I can't even find words to say. Uh, like I was just like, I was like, you bitch.
Yeah, we're allowed to cuss on these webinars. Yeah.
That you are there.
Yeah.
I mean, like I built a place for you to stand on. And now you are saying that because I'm of color, I am not allowed to be here.
Right.
And yes, and so I was really angry there, and I was like taking my phone and calling. It didn't help the situation now. And what I also want to say, like very short, is that my feeling injustice there did not help anyone because it made a huge I made a fight. It's like people started looking at me, actually even worse. And I felt really betrayed by some of my friends, actually, because they were starting saying to me that, what's your problem? That why would you listen to that woman? And in the way, yes, why would I listen? But yes, I had a problem with it, okay? And I was just like, now you need to empathize with me. Don't have the right to say what's my problem. I wasn't in the place to rationalize now that I shouldn't be feeling that way, because it was truly, I mean, I think it had to do with like all my life feeling that okay, it's that me taking that it's okay for me to just not to step into other people place, like in this environment that I would keep on this side and kind of know where I stand. But here I was feeling so that that this is my place. So how come even something that I built and I am kicked out? How is it
Very
possible?
similar to what's going on in the United States with people in different neighborhoods questioning Black and brown people for being in neighborhoods that they live in, but assuming that they don't live there because of the color of their skin.
Yeah.
So your experience with this
yeah, like throwing you out of your home, and that's
exactly.
It's it's like my home. So where am I supposed to go?
Right. Well, you're not supposed to go anywhere other than where you are. And I think I'm curious, the friends that you're talking about that were not so empathetic with your reaction, were these Polish friends or were these Vietnamese friends?
Polish friends, yeah.
Okay, so they don't know what you're experiencing. As somebody who experiences chronic pain 24 hours per day, there are people in my life that have no clue what that looks like and how it feels. They cannot say, I understand what you're going through. So your Polish friends who were watching or witnessing your reaction cannot say, Thuy, you shouldn't be feeling that way.
Yes.
Maybe you could have reacted differently, but it goes to a very core piece of racism.
Yes.
that other people who don't have those experiences cannot relate to. So I guess what I want to say is I want to validate right now, even though it's behind or past the situation for you, and I'm not there in Poland with you, it made total sense to me that you would have been upset.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
I mean, I see Jodi nodding. She's in total agreement. Like when you're told you don't belong here because of the color of your skin or the shape of your face or your religious background, it is definitely a wound, a very deep wound, and it's painful.
Yeah, yeah. And it was experience for me. And now that I connect to that experience, right, I think very soon after that, I came up with the program, The Journey Home. And I think it had to do with that sense of me feeling that I wasn't home here in Poland totally. I mean, I was, and even in Vietnam, when I go back to Vietnam now, it's not my home either. I mean, people in Vietnam not see me as Vietnam and as a person who belongs there either. So that's the question. So where should I go? Where's my home? So like the journey home, the inner journey to find the home inside, and that's what I took for myself from those experiences. That there's a home and there's the peace that probably maybe I chose to come this life to experience, to be in these places, to feel rootless, in order for me to find this inner home and go from there. And it did bring me a lot of healing and a lot of understanding, a lot. It gave me the resource to connect to people, not from the place of peace, and that's what I see also as the solution to the war problem right now. It is about healing this and finding this peace inside of us, so we can connect from the place of power. And and it has to go from all sides of people. And I think like this, like with me in this situation I just described, if I started being aggressive and kept going, and that would be the fight of back and forward, it would never end, it only would escalate. And even though you can say that I could say that I was right there, because on some part I was right to defend myself and and stand up there, but the way that it happened was not helpful at all, and it made it even worse. So it made me really question, how do we go about those situations? Because it's not about being right here, it's about how we can actually heal this, so we can co-live together. And well, it's not even right to say it's not about being right, but I think you know what I mean.
I think that one of the things that's a constant topic here, like just in the recent shooting of, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, Jacob Bland. People were criticizing him. Why was he walking away from police? Why wasn't he stopping? Why was he this? Why was he that? And it's like, can we just grieve and say what he didn't deserve to be shot regardless? And yet there are people who are questioning the way he reacted to the police, and your reaction to the way you were treated as the first time perhaps that you'd experienced something like that, there's a shock that goes through the system. There's a reaction. So then the other question is, why didn't other people not de-escalate things? Why did they continue to let it escalate? And that's one of the things we talk about in the United States around the police is reforming the police, having people who are on site to help de-escalate situations, because we have the police who are truly not participating in de-escalation, instead of blaming the victim or the survivor for their reaction. And so again, Sure, the way you reacted may have jarred some people and may have made things a little worse. And did you have training in responding to this kind of situation before? Maybe not, And so I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is. I think that
The thing is, I had training, but it was difficult.
Right, even with that,
right? Like when the reactions come,
absolutely.
even with training, it's very, I mean, I've been training in NBC, nonviolent communication, and and then here it comes, there's something that really hits you in your, core.
Right. Well, and you've got Black families talking all the time about they're constantly having the talk with their kids when they go out. Be safe. Don't talk back when you're driving. Keep your hands on the. I mean, they always have the talk, and no matter how much we talk, how much the families share, be safe. There, you cannot prevent an eternal. I was thinking of the word combustion. Like you cannot prevent that feeling inside of injustice.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's why it's a challenge, and I think that it's really important to stop blaming the victim survivor for their reaction and work with the people who are faced with these racist tendencies. Yeah, I don't know, Jodi, is there something you were nodding a lot? I wasn't sure if you wanted to add something, and I know you have to speak up louder because it's using my mic, but yeah.
With the mic situation. I think I kind of wanted to go back. I know you spoke before regarding feeling like you had to blend in, and that I think that assimilation piece or that feeling by people of color that either you stand out or you blend in, and what does that mean? And it sounds like you felt like to protect yourself, blending in, and you actually said you were going to come back to that. And I don't know if you did come back to that or if you wanted to expand on that.
Thank you so much, Jodi. See, I forgot that I said that.
And we put that on, right? I'm saying white people, white culture, like you need to blend in, you need to fit in, versus letting that individuality exist and me sitting in the uncomfortableness. And I'm wondering not only if you can expand on that, but also talk about, did you find your place now? Like today, have you found your place where you don't have to blend in to fit in?
Great question.
Yeah. So yes, at first my experience was about blending in, and actually, but then I did it through music a lot, finding this connection, and music helped me find the authentic connection in me. And for me, it later naturally became that I would, really, truly, I found my voice when I was in the States, actually. It was the environment at the university in the States was better than at the school in Poland for me. In there, I felt I had more space to open up, and then but it had to do, I mean, up until now, even this right now in the last year is when I felt like I am I'm ready to be visible. But before that, even though I did find my place to answer that, I do feel that I started finding my place in 2012. But I would find the way to work around it so that I didn't have to be standing out too much and still had my things done. And for example, I would have some things that I felt need to happen, some projects. I had this parenting project in Poland, and I was just feeling like that would be so awesome to be able to bring it to the Polish parents. But I knew, maybe I didn't know, but I felt, because that was my decision. Hard to say what would happen if I did it differently. I felt that if I go and I am the face of this right now, it's hardly going to be successful. So what I did is that I found a Polish partner and made her a face. That's why the project is like, so now it's very successful. It's one of the biggest parenting project now in Poland, but almost no one knows me. And some of my friends, like when they open the book that we translated, they see my name, they will call me, like, oh, Thuy, I didn't know that you were in this project. I mean, that's the only place that I am in, and like the face is of the white person. And that's the way I would do the project. And even now, I don't feel that I could be successful in Poland with my face if I were to go out. I still have the sense that as for those, there is something about the nation that it's easier for them to buy into ideas, into things from their people. And and I'm not saying this, I don't feel pain about it. I see it as a reality as it is now. Unless I bring like some, like they love, like, why don't you go and talk about Vietnam? So yes, so that's where they see me, right? But when you speak about things that are to change, transform something that their people could also do, then they would rather have it from their people. That's my perception of it. And well, and that's why with my project I decided to go international with English also, because I felt like there's more possibility with people around the globe than even though I'm sitting here in Poland. If I try to do it in Polish, I would always like have to work so much harder and don't even know where it gets. Whereas if I sell it, like I would give this idea to a friend of mine, the path would be so much easier. So yes, there is. I see what's happening. I don't feel that it doesn't personally. I feel that I'm finding my way around it. It's not ideal, and um, and I could say that it's in a way it's unfair, but I don't know. Like I think in a way it's we have things. There is this, this differences that people see, and I don't know whether it will how to resolve it truly. So there's none of this. I don't know if it's possible. Maybe we will always have to find. I mean, when it's one-on-one connection, it's different because then there's connection. But when it's collective, then there's something about this collective brain and the way it works as a collective. It's probably also biological, right? That we against you kind of thing. So we trust our tribe more than someone who looks like he's not from our tribe. So so I do see it is here, and I do understand that it's I'm not so happy about it. Yet I don't know what to do really right now, like to make it disappear. I don't know if it's possible.
So what I'm hearing, please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing is that where you are currently in Poland, there are Polish people becoming economically solvent as a result of your idea because your face cannot bring it forth, but they can.
Oh yeah, there are, yes.
Okay, I relate that to the United States and how the slaves built this country and the white people benefited from it.
Yeah.
So you're you're one person in a country, a smaller country, and also, but it's for me, I'm feeling the same concept right now, is that the white people in Poland are benefiting from your work. I don't know if you're also benefiting from your work, but it seems to me that it immediately took me to our country where, the white people benefited from slavery. But I don't think that you're enslaved. I'm just seeing that you're the brain.
There's some dynamics.
Yeah.
Some similar dynamics.
That I just was feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never connected it, but it does make sense now that you've made that connection, that it's, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know what the solution is either. I mean, a big poster on the parent center that's got your face and name. I'm the founder. No, I don't know. But yeah,
I mean, yeah, it's not the point even, like, yeah,
right.
it's, yeah, but, yeah.
I guess what I would hope is that you're getting to benefit from the work, irregardless of your face being the vision. And that's what I'm hoping for our country, that the Black and brown people that were enslaved, that have been mistreated and there's been injustice, can also get the benefits of all the hard work of their ancestors.
Like, honestly, I'm still going through, I think it has to do with self-value, and I'm sharing it because self-value of mine, and probably also of what you're saying in the United States, of the people, of self-value. Because if I think parts of the fact that I'm not getting as much economical benefit from what I created is because I did not give myself that value. And I'm still learning to put that value forth.
Yeah.
From the start, because later it's hard to come back. It's like, like 5 years, hey, come on.
Right.
Right. Yeah, but then
the difference is you might have that choice, whereas the Black and brown people of our country didn't even have that choice, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And now
so
I'm
saying, like, even I even with my choices, with my situation, which in some part was difficult, but it's in no comparison so as painful and as difficult than of the Black American people with this history. And even with that, I can feel so much suffering in me, and so much complexity. Then I can't even imagine what, over there, how much pain is in their heart, and how much of this anger and injustice is still in there. And and so, like, even on this scale, like, so when I came here today just to finish it, I was just like, I don't think that what I am talking about is in comparison to what other people, Black people, talking. It's not that important. But then I was just like, no, the suffering, the pain, just let it be. And it is my part of it. And I acknowledge what I come through, and I acknowledge that what you are coming through, that that might be even harder than what I am coming through. And as I think, as we all do this, even as white people, acknowledge their shame and their pain, it's going to help the collective.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I'm really glad that you accepted the invitation, because I mean, we all need to have a place where we can speak up about whatever inadequacies or insecurities or injustices have affected us as a result of being different.
Yeah.
Whether it's the color of your skin, whether it's the length of your hair, whether it's the size of your hips, whether it's your gender. There's been a lot of damage globally done to people who are not the status quo, to people who are not the dominant population. And I mean, there are a lot of countries where white is not the dominant population. And there is, race on race. People have those kinds of talks. But your story is certainly been very important to me. And I can see by Jodi nodding her head to her, and also people who've made comments. I mean, somebody wrote, "I appreciate witnessing this conversation, eye-opening. My heart goes out to Thuy." So
thank you so much.
It's really important, and I feel grateful that you were willing to speak up and share your story. And there's probably a lot more that we didn't get to today that I would love to have you back. I'm hoping to have actually in January, if not December, a panel of about 8 or 9 people to different backgrounds where we can really kind of have some healthy conversation and,
Wow.
maybe even some problem solving. Who the hell knows?
Maybe we'll find a way.
Yeah, maybe we'll be the ones, right? No. But I would, go ahead. Yeah,
Well,
Jodi.
I think you touched on a piece of it. I mean, there's so much work to be done, but a piece is that connectedness, and making those connections so we actually see people as individuals, not as the color of their skin or whatever their gender or whatever attributes. I mean, those are obviously a part of us, but until we see someone as they are, people are still going to see each other as unequal and therefore allow or permit or take part or take silence in the injustices that are happening. So I think you recognizing that connected piece is so important.
Because the moment we have this one-on-one connection, truly connecting, then stop seeing the other person as the other from outside. And
I was wondering with your music, because there's connectedness with music, right? And have you ever used your music to tell part of your story and create connectedness that way? And how does the country where you're in, Poland, and Polish people respond to that?
Actually, I've never took the topic of racism or from that perspective through music. And yes, no, I've done a lot of talking, speaking, and music, but for some reason, never talked from that perspective. And well, because I think until today, I wasn't truly looking at it. So, taking it out as something, I always try to focus on that one-on-one connection. Because when I think about a collective, then it becomes a little bit overwhelming.
That's uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable.
It's not to say that
Exactly.
And that's not to say it's your role, because I don't want to put that on you or any person of color. Like, it's I think, as a white woman, it's my role, right, to recognize when I don't speak out or I don't say something, and where I indirectly, unintentionally, but do contribute to the injustices. So I don't want to put it on you. I was just kind of exploring that idea. I was curious.
Yeah, it's gonna work in my head, Jodi, for sure. And one day it might come out as something.
So I would love, we're nearing the end of the webinar interview, panel, questioning, whatever. I would really love if you wouldn't mind, because I offer my panelists, for those who are listening, I offer my panelists either a monetary contribution or a way to promote their business, so that they can, I don't ever want to take advantage of someone's time. I'm still building my business and I'm not totally rich or anything, but I've been asking for donations to help pay for some of the panelists' time. But I've also offered to promote our guests in their business, in their ventures. So I would love it if you, because this is what you chose to, let's promote your business, yay! If you could talk a little bit more, and then we can put in the chat how people can find you, how people can refer you to others, how you do what you do. And I'll also make sure that I post all that information in the Facebook links, as well as my YouTube channel once we get it up there, as well as the podcast channel. So take it away, Thuy. Tell us what you do, who you are, how you do it, and everybody listen up so you can support Thuy and her continued adventure and prosperity.
Thank you, Misha and Jodi, for this opportunity and for your generosity. Yeah. Of course, I work with music, as you could probably guess from today. And what I do is that I'm sharing my journey. I mean, my insights and what I've learned with my clients through the process I'm taking them through. Because for me, what's healing was listening to this through music, to my inner guidance. And it always helped me get out of the difficult circumstances, get out of isolation, feeling of aloneness, isolation, and it would bring me to people who would actually be able to connect with me, even though it might be not a large collective, but this guidance helped me navigate to opportunities. And what I offer, one of the things that I offer is a 30-minute free consultation that I'm actually offering until the end of, I have quite a few spots open until the end of October. And that's a soul sound breakthrough session. This, of course, there, if I see that we might be a good fit to work further in really going deeper into this process of discovering our calling, discovering who we are, discovering how we can, what's our mission in the world, why we were born here now at this place, in this family. I mean, it has been my question all my life. Why was I born here with this family, with parents who did not understand at all what's going on in my head? Um, but then, as I started in my journey to embrace that and seeing my potential in that place, how, if I know how, I could actually still flourish despite the difficulties. I could still learn to connect, to find the love for myself, even though I did not feel it in my family. And they were very loving. It just I wasn't. It was not in the way that was for me. And so, in this soul song, through starting with the soul song consultation, through the work that I do, it's about this work of finding your inner guidance, of the love, of your superpowers. And this 30-minute consultation I've had from a lot of people saying that even when they don't go further with me, they take a lot because I do give a lot. It's 30, sometimes it gets into 45 minutes, depending on a person and how it goes. But what I commit to you in that session, I always start each session with the intention that I want to give that soul that comes to me the best I can in this time we have together. And I know that many people were touched by this conversation because I do have this intention. And I do have, and I always share at least one thing that could help them shift into that sense of inner power, that they have see that potential in them and see the true potential. Because what I find is many of us try to manifest things that is not in alignment with our deeper self. And when we do that, it's almost impossible and it brings us more struggle. Or we have to try harder to do it. So we build those muscles outside, whereas inside, nothing is really happening. And we can feel that life then is against us. And in what we do is that we instead of tensing up outside, we let ourselves drop into our true self and going from there. And yes, it is many times as we go deeper into it. At first, I help people see their potential because it's always strengthening when you see your true potential, what you're capable of. But many times, in order to unlock some of those powers, we need to go through the shadow, just in the same way, for the United States and for, to become a real country of connection and of true equality, we need to go through the shadow work. The same in ourselves. There's no way we can own our power without looking into our shadows, because in our shadows are the seed of our potential. So as we look at the potential and we go through the work, in which we create this space for this work, it is about truly flourishing in our real potential without disowning the child, without disowning the pain. Because when we own our pain, we help the world be lighter, not only ourselves. So, so that's my work. I work through music, I work through words and photography. And yes, so if you are at all resonating with this, I am warmly inviting you to go to the website. I think Jodi or Misha put it down. Music for number 4mind.com to find out more about it and take this consultation. I love seeing each person who comes with, because it's always enriching to me. Um, every conversation with a person and helping anyone see more of their true self. And I see when the tears start coming, when they recognize who they truly are without trying to be someone else. It's for me very beautiful because I know that it's a healing. It's a healing moment. Um, Yes, and one more thing, because I just came up with this 2 days ago. The three, I just put out the invitation for what I call 3-day immersion for musicians and music lovers uh, who have this story to tell about how music transformed their lives. So if you have your story about how music has transformed your life, um, either you're a musician or a music lover, then I warmly invite you to this 3-day immersion where you get like your 20 minutes to share your story. And if you play something or sing something, Misha, I would love you there to,
Hey.
to share, to share your talent
Yeah.
and share what you do. If you are not a musician, you're a music lover, then how did music transform your life and how it can help you become of who you truly are and who are you, what you do. You know, it's a place to share our uniqueness and through that beginning of music. So it's on my, I think it's in my group. The post of it is on my Facebook group. Actually, it's not on my website.
And
Um,
I did list your Facebook group there. I just want to make sure we clarify, is your Facebook group for all gender, sexual orientation?
yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's for all genders, for all sexual orientation.
So it's
The only
Facebook.
requirement is that you are a music lover.
Okay, Music Lovers Creating Harmony is the group. And I put the link there. And if none of you are interested in this and not resonating with any of it, please share it for others that you think might be interested. And the breakthrough sessions, from what I understand, are 30 minutes. They're free. So you get 30 minutes of time with Thuy. You get to have some real soul searching song connection. And, if you decide to work with Thuy after that, great. If you don't, then you at least get a beautiful 30 minutes and could potentially refer other people, because I'm sure that you all have a great sense of character and intuition about the person that you'll be talking with, Thuy, and so can think very quickly as to, oh, who could I refer to Thuy? So I really want to really highlight that. I also am going to put in the chat information about the YouTube channel where you can see all the previous webinars. This one will be going up in the next couple of days. I'll also be putting the audio on the podcast channel. In January of 2021, I believe, I'm still waiting for the news, but I've been asked to do a radio show. And so I've changed my podcast title to match that show, which is Coexistence, Joy, Pain, and Truth. I do podcast interviews on the topic of authentic and wholehearted joy, but I also do topics on candid conversations about systemic racism. And there'll be other things we talk about: grief, physical, chronic, emotional pain, but it's the truth about all of it. And I also placed, for those attendees that are here, and I'll put them in the Facebook post as well, some scaffolding resources and resources for becoming more learned and effective allies. There are books, there are podcasts, there are articles, there are charities, there are volunteer opportunities, there are films. So hopefully you all can access those links and they are for viewing only, not commenting. But if you have resources that you would like added to those lists and are willing to provide me, please send me an email at misha@safranconsulting.com, and I'll put that in the information as well. But I just want to thank everyone for attending, everyone for your open heart and mind, for listening to Thuy's story, for the questions, for my partner for being such a willing techno wizard supporter person for Facebook and asking some very helpful and also profound questions. And of course, I want to thank myself for showing up. I was having an emotional day. I'm moving to the East Coast, and I was saying goodbye to my 24-year-old and realizing, oh, I won't see you before I leave. And so I was having that emotion. And Thuy, it was a real plus to be able to come home knowing that I got to be in this space with you and with Jodi and to talk honestly and open with love. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this space, for the safety that you and Jodi provided here, for your open heart, for your generosity, for your willingness to do all of this and go through the inconvenience in order to bring all of this to the world, you know. And it is, right? We need to see that sometimes it's not a convenient thing to do. Sometimes we need to be willing to do inconvenient things. And I see that you are so willing to do this.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Jodi, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Just want to say thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Yeah. So I'm going to stop the live stream, and thank you everybody on Facebook for having been here with us. I will stop the recording. So woohoo!